Peter. What's happening? We have sort of a problem here. Yeah, you apparently didn't put one of the new cover sheets on your TPS reports.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I forgot.
Yeah. You see, we're putting the cover sheets on all TPS reports now before they go out. Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah. Yeah, I have the memo right here. I just, forgot. But, it's not shipping out till tomorrow, so there's no problem.
Yeah. If you could just go ahead and make sure you do that from now on, that would be great. And, I'll go ahead and make sure you get another copy of that memo. Okay?
Yeah, no, I have the memo. I've got it. It's right.
Hello, Phil.
Hi, Peter. What's happening? We need to talk about your TPS reports.
Yeah, the cover sheet, I know. Bill talked to me about it.
Yeah. Did you get that memo?
Yeah, I got the memo, and I understand the policy, and the problem is just that I forgot the one time, and I've already taken care of it, so it's not even really a problem anymore.
Yeah. It's just we're putting new cover sheets on all the TPS reports before they go out now, so if you could go ahead and try to remember to do that from now on, that'd be great. All right.
Okay, but that's the last straw.
Hey, I'm Kyle. Thanks for joining me and Andy for the Legendary Creature Podcast. So, if you're listening with your kids or your conservative grandma, maybe don't, because we swear.
Or you can check us out on YouTube, because hey, that's no place for conservative old women or children.
Fuck yeah. Well, guys, should we dive in?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Yeah, let's hit it. Let's talk Azorius.
Let's do it. We brought somebody else in today to talk Azorius with us, Andy.
All right.
We've got Austin from Commander 99 with us today.
He's back. He's our one and only friend.
Yeah, just one. You got one friend.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it. He's our only friend.
Yeah, you're the only guest we've had on the podcast for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't actually like mesh well with other people. We've brought people in and they're just, you know, and they know us. So they're like, I don't know. Maybe it's just kind of on the spot for him to bring him onto somebody else's podcast. But you know, you're a content creator, so it's like, this is just another day to you.
Another day.
Yeah.
More talking about Commander, more making videos about Commander.
Yeah, my dude.
Well, we've had you on before, Austin, but for our listeners, let's have you tell them a little bit about what you do in the EDH realm and the content realm.
Yeah, so Commander 99 is the name of our YouTube channel. We do gameplay in both the paper and online world, as well as we have our occasional deck techs. So we just finished a huge series on pretty much each one of the new legends from Ravnica Allegiance.
Yeah, I'm really into them. I actually like your deck tech content a lot.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been doing a bit more with like the graphics of it. So I've been trying to like make it look a little bit more like, you know, some more flair, some more added
how the cards fly in and stuff.
That's, we've actually noticed your transitions like ooh, that was sexy.
Yeah. Just seeing it through the lens of, you know, somebody who puts stuff like that together. I'm like, that's pretty hot. That's pretty hot. What he's doing. But yeah, man. I actually saw the one you're going to talk about today, right? I mean, is it going to be any different, or have you kind of tweaked it at all? Because you did a video for this, didn't you?
Yeah. Since then, I've made a few. So with our deck tech series, it's myself and Reed. We're kind of like talking through it together.
Oh, okay.
And so I've made just a few adjustments that are, I think, a little more personal, as opposed to like the overall idea of how Lavinia should play. It's like, I just like to go pretty crazy with the card draw and with the extra like value from it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, so we'll see some changes once we get into that.
So it might be a little bit different than the video, but
yeah, there will be a deck list for this one as well.
All right, cool. So we're at the last stop, Kyle, with this guild series thing. We're gonna do Azorius, yeah.
Yeah, this has been going on for a little while.
Dude, this one's been a little hard. I feel like I've said that a couple times, but you know.
so we've done this with Azorius. This will be having done all 10 guilds. What's besides Niv Mizzet? What's been your favorite one, Andy?
So far?
Yeah,
I actually really liked the Gruul one, dude. I had a good time with that.
yeah.
I liked your deck. I liked mine. The Orzhov one was pretty surprising. They have some flexibility there. I think so far the Rakdos one actually has been my least favorite.
Interesting. What about you, Austin? Because you obviously you've been working on content revolving around the guilds. Like, what's been your favorite guild to work with? What's been the most challenging one to build around for you?
So for me, like the guilds I found overall, I'm more and more into the flavor behind them. Like I'm very much into like what they bring to Magic and how like
talking like the aesthetics or.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a visual thing. It's kind of the playability. I feel like they all have something unique that they bring. And, you know, I kind of noticed that when listening to your guys' Guild Series podcast, that it's like, you know, this is what they do and talking about it as well. If there's a particular guild, I kind of lean towards more, I think Simic is definitely up there. It's like card advantage.
Yeah.
It's a huge bonus for me.
Yeah. And it's got it both ways. Getting lands out of your deck and drawing more cards. Definitely what they're about.
Exactly. And doing a lot of nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that one was easier to do, I think.
I think
what was hard about that one is to not be kind of in line with what every other Simic commander is doing. Like trying to be unique in that space was a little harder to do, come to think of it. Because there's just objectively good decisions to make, you know, with that color. Like why,
as we put it, it's the most lubricated color combination.
Yeah, it's the
like
format's gonads is what we call it.
It gets there.
Yeah.
Has there been a guild that you found challenging to build around? I think Andy and I both agree Rakdos was kind of hard for us to approach a little bit. But what about you, Austin?
Yeah, Rakdos has been one of those as well. It's like I feel like that and is it for me? It's like there's something about that color combination. Like I really enjoy it, but at the same time, the mana base combining with all the like spell slinging. So I find the mana rocks, they kind of, you know, you're playing mana rocks and it's kind of going against all the spells. So
yeah,
I'm like
they get in the way. This. They do.
Yeah, they get in the way sometimes, and that's the biggest thing for me.
Man, Izet brings the salt out of me, dude.
Yeah, it does. You turn into a cock when you play.
It's bad.
It's like, dude, God, I don't even know you.
All right, so let's talk Azorius and talk about like what's the identity? What do you think of, Andy, when you think Azorius?
Man, I think of a lot of paperwork. I don't know why.
It's just a lot of bureaucratic. Like I got to fill out my W-9. I got to fill out all these other tax forms.
Exactly. I think of labyrinthian, just laws to cover everything.
The lawyers, the politicians, you know.
Yeah, senators,
the hot shots. Yeah,
right. Lobbyists, like things like that.
Lobbyists.
It's at least as far as like
the elocution counters.
Yeah, like as far as like the filibuster counter.
Oh yeah, the filibuster.
Filibuster counters.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're definitely pressing that button really hard. As far as like mechanically go, like thinking about it mechanically, it's even more fucking paperwork, man. It's like, you know, wait, are you about to resolve something that threatens my board state, and then you can deny them that? So there's a lot of permission based stuff going on in that color identity. You know, like if I think of Simic, like Simic has a lot of permission too. You know, in that you have like removal, I guess, or like Void Slime, I guess, sticks out as kind of one of their better counter spells, and Plasm Capture, I guess, if you want like a heavy-handed one. But when you look at, I mean, they have one Render Silent. It's like you counter their spell, and they're shut the fuck up the rest of the turn. You know,
stop now.
I when I was trying to come up with the deck around this thing, I was like, I just want to lean on that. I want to just do a silencer type thing that just silences everybody as often as I could possibly make it work. Because yeah, this would be the colors to do it in. So yeah, mechanically, it's a lot of denying your opponents any kind of, you know, moving forward. You know, you kind of have like a paywall they have to get through, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's one of the more difficult ones to pilot too, because like
dude, it is.
You find Azorius as one of the like, okay, well, it's a depression. It's gonna try and stop your opponents from doing anything, and you've got 3 opponents to deal with, you know, as opposed to like other formats. You know why blue-white control like dominates a lot of those formats is they're just like they just got to deal with one person.
Yeah,
yeah, and their reach into the life total doesn't need to be that big, right? Like they can get away with a Delver of Secrets and just chip every turn. Where here. We're
gonna be here all night if that's what you're doing.
Like that's the other thing is I was having trouble finding ways to reach into people's life totals and reduce them effectively.
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff is a little bit indiscriminate that there's not a way to like piggyback on somebody. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So like if you put out like the Grand Arbiter, yeah, he's just not, you're nobody's friend here.
Yeah, you're slowing everybody down.
Yeah, like you can't piggyback somebody and go, you know, I'll leave you alone. Like I'll do all this stuff, but it's like you're making everything cost more for me. And then if the deck is built like how most of those Arbiter decks are built, it's probably not the only effect that's in the deck that's doing that, right? I mean, it's not the only thing that's threatening to remove people's ability to play, at least when they want and how they want, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was the thing I was looking for. Was like, how do I just win by myself a little bit, or even take out one opponent by myself effectively with these colors?
Play with Bruna.
Yeah, play with Bruna or Ojutai, I guess. Yeah.
Austin, you'd put together some kind of like a little bit of homework for Azorius. Were there some details that you kind of call to mind, I guess, with Azorius that you feel like are representative of how you want to play with these colors?
Yeah, I mean, I find that it's very controlling. I think that was one of the main things, and how I play Azorius is I really like to focus on one of the other things that they kind of bring to the table, which is blink. You know, being able to get creatures out and back into the battlefield. That was one of the things that I gravitated towards when I first started playing again and started making content. It was like, you know, Brago was one of the big ones. Like, blink. You know, I didn't focus too hard on the stacks element of it. I was like, I just want to flicker my creatures.
If only everybody would just let us.
Because you do both. Fuck off. You do both.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I got to Guild the Lotus out and I'm
going to get 6 mana out of my Lotus instead of just 6 or just 3.
Different phases, but you still get it. Yeah. Yeah, I think leaning in on their flicker, because that is one thing they do that color does very well is the flickering. They gave it a lot of tools to do that. Yeah. It wasn't even just in a specific set. It goes back to Lorwyn, right? Like there's cards that flicker.
Yeah, and I think the namesake for the kind of the mechanical function of that, like blink and flicker, they're on old cards that are in the colors, right?
What's the difference between the two? Flicker and blink. Is there a difference? One's till end of turn and one's just right now, here and now.
Well,
yeah.
I think that's how most people define it. What's funny is if you listen to Mark Rosewater, he actually calls it slow flicker and fast flicker, I think is what he uses. Like he just uses the same word.
So blink isn't.
He doesn't delineate between blink and flicker, I found that very interesting.
Because the Deadeye is just kind of like right now.
Yeah.
Right. And then Deadeye, and then there's a few effects that like exile them till end of turn.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the turn's over, it comes back. So, all right. Yeah, that's a smart thing to lean in on though, and a less oppressive one. But when it comes to Brago, you're going to do both for sure. Why not?
I mean, we've talked about Brago.
You did. Don't deny it.
I did do it because you guys wouldn't just let me get my value.
Yeah.
I just want the value.
Yeah, sure.
I find that like I tend to lean in more like fair stacks. So like when I'm not being as oppressive, it's like, oh well, this just denies one small thing to my opponent, one minor thing. So it doesn't it doesn't annoy them as much. You know, it kind of gives them like, oh well, it's just a slap on the wrist. It's not like I'm putting in.
What, stasis in
yeah,
Kyle?
No stasis like Kyle does. Yeah, maybe doing something that makes it so people don't get their ETB triggers or something like that. Instead
come on. Like I don't even that's not stacks. That's just good deck building. If you don't have any ETBs in your deck, you can throw a torpor orb in, and you know.
Oh man, Brago, like the thing I swear I saw Andy cast torpor orb like every time.
It slowed you down a little bit,
just a little.
All right, so let's review our options, right, for commanders.
Yeah, so let's head to EDH Rec and see what's sitting on the top of the Azorius list here. So we just talked about Brago, and by a long shot in terms of Azorius commanders. So over 2,300 decks listed with EDH Rec.
2,300?
Yeah.
So he's in the 2K club?
Yeah, he is in the 2K club.
Crazy.
So again, yeah, Flicker Blink is kind of what we're going off of here. Grand Arbiter Augustin IV comes in at number 2 with over 1,200 decks.
And what does we've never encountered. Have you encountered a deck like this, Austin? An Augustin deck?
I've actually played Grand Arbiter.
Oh, you had
back
one.
in the day.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was.
So what does one of those look like?
It was mostly Spellslinger.
Oh,
so the cost reduction was used to, like, you know, reduce like things in conjunction with like cards like High Tide and stuff like that.
Oh,
it was taking advantage of that cost reduction. You know, one less.
I like that because yeah, with Instance of Sorceries, that's a lot.
Yeah,
1 mana, like that's a lot for one of those. Huh.
So
but generally, that's not how they're built, right? Generally, it seems like
not at all.
Yeah, that's you being clever.
Yeah,
let's talk about
which is awesome.
What your general typify. Yeah, like a typical Augustin deck is. It's
probably going to be a little more hate bears, right?
Yeah, I mean, like going to the signature cards. Like, what does it have for us?
Okay, so if we go into the signature cards on Augustin, we've got Aura of Silence.
So another taxing effect.
Yeah, then we've got Propaganda and Ghostly Prison right next to each other.
Okay.
Spell Tithe Enforcer. So whenever an opponent plays a spell, that player sacrifices a permanent unless he or she pays 1.
Jesus Christ.
It's not even like Ristic Studies right next to that. It's not even like...
Yeah, so the costs just keep coming up. And then, yeah, you have Thalia. Things are coming in.
Yeah, the Heretic Cathar.
Yeah.
And
then, yeah, just general control spells. Like,
yeah,
top card is Supreme Verdict and then counter spell right underneath that.
Right.
So it's, yeah, just slow everybody down. And
what's funny is you kind of look at it and you're like, all of this is just being mean and digging deeper into the deck. That's what most of this is.
Not that I'm not opposed to that. I actually like the Spell Slinger idea, though. That's
actually pretty hot.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
you got it
now. time to move in on good old GAA 4. Okay, and then down from him is Bruna Light of Alabaster.
So this is something we didn't really mention, I guess, in kind of the overview of it, but someone that's very interested in auras, right? Enchantments.
Yeah. Azorius has some reach into enchantment for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, Bant is where a lot of people, especially after the Commander 2018 deck, are going to be dwelling with enchants, but you definitely have an option here with Bruna.
Yeah, she's interesting because she cares about the graveyard. Her attack, she has an attack or block trigger, which is pretty interesting.
That is kind of fascinating.
If you flash her into play and block, you can pull everything up out of your yard.
Ooh.
You know, or and in your hand. And then, yeah, she also grabs anything that's already out there. Like, she's very, very concerned with auras that are on the battlefield, the ones in your hand.
Yeah.
In the graveyard.
Just all of them.
Yeah, just
all of them.
Yoink. She's pretty heavy-handed, though. I mean, she's 6 mana. She's what, Sigarda's sister or whatever?
Yeah, one of
those 3.
Trinity of angels subservient to
I saw somewhere
Avacyn,
that there was one that they never showed, that there's actually more of those sisters.
Huh.
That it was talked about in the lore, but they never like made a card for her.
That's
Somebody was talking about that.
So I'm not familiar with that.
We never encountered a Bruna deck. I don't think anyone's ever bothered to build it.
You and I spent some time brewing one with Elise, but never got brought to the table.
Yeah.
I've had a little experience with Bruna. I think the only way I was able to get around it is with a card like Living Death or some kind of way to, like, you know, because there's a lot of indestructible and a lot of protection spells, and it's like you gotta really jump through some hoops to get rid of Bruna once she hits the table.
Once she clips on. Yeah, I mean, like, her signature card is Battle Mastery to give her double strike, 3 dreams to just grab whatever you want, then block or attack and equip it. Sage's Reverie, Ethereal Armor. Yeah, there's Eldrazi conscription.
May as well. Let's just start punching people hard.
So she's definitely like a faster paced Sigarda Voltron than how Sigarda is.
Yeah, so she's a turn after Sigarda, but
once she gets
has much easier reach into getting the auras onto her.
Octopus Umbra, Celestial Mantle. So yeah, it seems like CMC is like out the fucking window with Bruna.
The only thing I think it's lacking is like there's a lot of card draw in Selesnya auras. You know, you've
That's
got
a good
like
point.
all those single cantrippy Enchantress when like they need more blue white.
They just have Mesa Enchantress and then the core Spirit Dancer, but they have to cast them, which she's not really super interested in doing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. I think probably the best you're gonna do is curiosity type stuff. Like, I guess that's pretty shitty too.
Yeah, I mean, since you're running blue, that's probably where to go, right?
Yeah, because you're not really casting them, and a lot of them care about that. I think, what is it, the Sylvan Caryatid's the only one that cares about them ETBing?
Yeah.
Because it's like a constellation effect.
Yeah, exactly, because it's constellation.
Yeah.
I guess the nice thing, though, is that with white, like you can kind of stabilize things with the enchantment tutors. You know, like you can pretty steadily you'll probably have games that are pretty much the same with Bruna, I would guess.
Okay, yeah. Who's next? Ifara?
Yeah, God of the Polis. So this is another one with the whole ETB thing, right? Like we're specifically getting card draw from those ETBs happening during turns. So kind of we talked about Ifara recently.
Yeah, we did when we specifically talked on Flickr, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of has a little bit of, it's a unique space because you can use flash pretty heavily with Ifara in addition to flicker type effects. So she kind of straddles a couple different areas, I think, in order to get her benefit.
Yeah, because you're drawing both turns.
Yeah, exactly.
That's anyone's turn. You just get a creature in play.
I think
some value.
I think she's dope. I normally don't like commanders that simply say, do something, draw a card.
But her hoop is difficult enough.
Different. Yeah. She's asking you for specific cards that other ones won't run.
And you can get really creative. Like you can put in Heliod and Oketra and use those activated abilities to get tokens on different turns, right? And like, I don't know, there's just some interesting things.
Like where else is anyone else, like where else in the commander EDH pile does, the Stonecloaker show up in the signature card slot or the white main line? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I like that. It's a different way to play it. I really like Ifara, really do, comparative to the other ones on this list.
Following that is Noyan Dar.
So he probably is your spell slinger, at least one that actually asks for it.
Yeah. So whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may put 3 +1/+1 counters on target land you control.
Yeah.
If you do that, that land becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with haste that's still a land.
So we've had experience with
we've seen this, and it was a very weird deck. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, you want a deck that kind of is a little resistant to Cyclonic Rift. Here we go, because it's a land still. You just cleared the path for them.
Like, thanks, buddy.
That was, I think, the impetus of why
that deck existed in our group.
Yeah, because he was just sick. He was like, I'm so goddamn sick of Cyclonic Rift, and he's like, wait a minute, these are lands. So everyone would kind of think twice because he'd have them up to like what a Dark Steel Citadel that's like a 15/15 indestructible.
So exactly.
And then so if you kind of look at him, he's definitely focused on destroy all non-land creatures. All lands are indestructible, like Terra Eternal. Like you're looking just to kind of keep the lands in play. So it's a pretty rough. It's a weird deck.
It's weird. Yeah. It's a very different experience. Have you ever played with or against a Noyan Dar, Austin?
No, I haven't. But I find it very interesting to be in the Azorius colors. Like that kind of lens.
Lands.
That strategy.
It feels like something you might see a little more in Gruul, right? Like maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Something.
What's weird is that the card that they don't have in here, like on the top, like remember that one that just gave a creature flying? If you controlled a white permanent, you bounce it back to your hand.
Yeah, Brad used that to great effect.
Oh my god, I can't remember the name of it, but
Core Spirit Dancer, Core something.
It's a blue sorcery, I think.
Oh, okay.
It just says target creature gains flying, and then it says if you control a white permanent, you just bounce it back to your hand. So he would cast this like over and over and over again to get the
Yeah, to get at evasion.
Well, yeah, and the
okay.
counters to stack up. So
Yeah.
now you have a flying indestructible land that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And since Noyan Dar is a white permanent, he just kept jumping it back to his hand. For some reason, it doesn't show up on their top. I remember thinking like, this thing is just probably the best card in your deck. And he's like, yeah, man, I don't know how I
Value
found-
Town.
Yeah,
Like,
I think he saw it like on a Reddit thread that somebody had mentioned it. But yeah, this one's cool. It's a wacky way to play. He didn't keep it for very long though. I don't know. Doesn't align
it's
with
kind of
his.
outside. Like, he's a Rakdos player.
Yeah, it doesn't align with how he likes to
Didn't
play.
fit into his moral labyrinth,
Yeah,
or
and then
lack thereof.
down from there we have Geist of Saint Traft. Really, as a commander,
Hmm.
it's kind of weird, right? That it's,
Yeah.
Yeah, an exiling token, a token that exiles at the end of combat.
that doesn't contribute to your commander damage total. I mean, he's out early. I'll give him that. You know, man, he was a monster in Standard back then. Do you remember that?
Oh, that's right. Because
Remember
that was the
Hexproof?
Bant Hexproof
Yeah, dude, that was so
days,
annoying.
right?
Yeah, weirdly, he's kind of showing up here. A lot of just care about spirits, a lot of spirit
Yeah,
tribal.
it looks like
a little
people
bit.
are, looking at it, it looks like there's a lot of like auras and equipment stuff going on with it as well.
Yeah, maybe
So,
not spirit tribal because this one gives them.
angels.
Well, his top card is other spirits you control get +2 or +1/+1. The Supreme Phantom. So now he's a 3/3. That seems like a weak card for him, don't you think?
Very interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's weak. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it.
I mean,
But-
and what does that say about Azorius? You know, like when you've got some of these options, like, do you think that there are maybe some of the newer ones that are maybe just underrated that people aren't playing as much as they should, and
Yeah.
they should be higher on the list? Or is
That-
Geist Saint Trap the ceiling? You know, should we all be building Geist decks?
Yeah, what do we
Maybe.
know what do these 580 decks know that we don't about Guys Saint
Yeah.
Trap?
And maybe this speaks to something that I think was kind of illuminated in talking about the color pairing, is that oftentimes there's kind of, I mean, there's obvious exceptions, but once you get your deck built, there's kind of a question of like, okay, I'm going to control this thing, but how am I going to win? You know,
I don't think I'm ever gonna see one.
like Bruna and Noyan Dar, those decks, I'm like, I know how you're going to win.
Yeah.
Brago, I feel like that deck, depending on how your meta is, it can become diffuse in terms of the ability to win.
Sure. But there's
Uh,
tons of resources out there. Like there's always a Brago conversation somewhere where
Sure.
people can point you in the
Sure.
right direction.
Like I had a Sig River Guide deck back in the day, and I just could never get on top of people enough to get myself there with my Merfolk.
Yeah, to do anything good with him.
So yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting thing to pose, Austin. Like, what does that say about the
Yeah.
colors and where we're at with them and how we use them in Commander?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I noticed in my research. Like, I was looking at some of the more recent commanders that they printed, and they kind of lean more towards that oppressive strategy and spell slinger, except for I think Raf Capishan. That was one of the ones that was like, okay, artifacts, right?
Yeah,
Azorius, you know?
Yeah.
Giving
He's really open ended too.
Yeah,
I
but he's
thought-
good.
Yeah, he's good. He's just, he's flashing the zone. I came close to bringing that as a deck list tonight for this thing, but I felt like it was going to, I said, how am I going to make this different from any other card decks that are out there, like that are like him?
but
Yeah.
I think you're right, Austin. Though I mean, like, because I'm trying to look at this a little further. I'm like, okay, well, let's look at someone like Azor the Lawbringer that's been in the last year or so,
Yeah, you think he'd be just a splash, right?
and yeah, and
he's got a lot of lore around him. He showed up kind of in a cool
yeah. There's only
setting.
129 decks listed with EDH Rec, but it does exactly what you're describing. Like, players can't cast instants and sorcery spells during their next turn after Azor's entered the battlefield, and so that kind of control path seems pretty clear there.
For him, I don't
Yeah.
think they'd made him strong enough. I think it's not strong enough to make him even compelling because it only lasts till end of turn. And then
Yeah,
as soon
totally.
as you pass the turn, they're released from that. So you spend then all these card slots in your deck trying to figure out ways to get him in and out of the battlefield during other players' turns,
Yeah, because it's until
where
that
if they have
player's
an
next
instant, they
turn.
can just do it in response anyway.
Yeah,
So you have to figure out, okay, well, now I need Teferi, to make it so they just can't do anything at instant speed to come up with a harder lock I don't know. He just wasn't. Because I tried to make a deck around him too, and I kept thinking like I should just do the old Lavinia and just detain everything of 4 and
probably
down.
presents the same problems that the Lavinia of the 10th would have had.
She makes better sense. Like, yeah, I don't have reach of everything 5 and up, but whatever the foundation of their deck is, I'm making it so they don't have access to it. I'm detaining it. If I'm going to spend this many card slots on something just to get it in and out of the battlefield, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even with how easy it is with Azorius, like it's still like a lot of slots.
Yeah, you got to have a whole suite of that in your deck to make it happen.
So I was like, all right, I'm just going to do a lot of enter the battlefield effects for this, but it just ended up being like this deck that I don't know. I wasn't into that either. I had a hard time with this one, man. I had a hard time.
It's fascinating because I think some of the commanders that are presented to us, like there's a variety of ways to play Azorius, but I think invariably you kind of do come back to some modicum of that control element, right?
Yeah. Is there anyone else compelling on this list of commanders that we think we want to talk about? That might be something.
I mean, I think it's worth mentioning, like there's definitely people that they heart some of these other commanders. We had somebody recently asking us for suggestions for Hannah Ship's Navigator. There's probably better options than Hannah for doing these kind of things with artifacts and enchants because it's been proliferate, I think, over the last year or so, the artifact love.
Yeah. And enchantment love with Bant.
Yeah, it's true. But there's people that heart that commander for sure.
It's that Therese Nelson art.
Yeah, that's legitimate.
What about you, Austin? Any of these that you've played against that people might want to think about?
I mean, we covered like a huge portion of these Azorius commanders. I can't like think of anything that jumps out at me besides like when I'm playing this strategy, I do focus on that control. I focus on that blink package, and I think it kind of it just kind of lends itself well to that strategy.
What else? Yeah, that's what it's good at. Yeah. All right, well let's move into our stuff. What do we got today? Who wants to go first?
Well, I think we should have Austin go first with his deck. He's got the
because his is going to be more compelling than
he's got the new stuff.
I got the good.
The new hotness. All right, get us going, man. What are we going to be talking about?
So I have brought to the table Lavinia Azorius Renegade.
And we did not spoil that earlier.
Yeah, a new legend from Ravnica Allegiance. You know, it's a hate bear in itself. You know, it's a
little bit.
She's got like
2/2
all the typing for it, right?
Yeah. This creature says each opponent can't cast non-creature spells with converted mana cost greater than the number of lands that player controls. And so kind of shuts down mana rocks like pretty hard.
Yeah.
You know, any kind of fast mana that opponents might play. Mana dorks as well. You know, that part of the ability, it just kind of want to keep your opponents on your level. You know, like you're slow playing this game. They should have to as well.
So they can still use mana rocks as long as it aligns with how many lands they have, but they can't use them. They can't use land and mana rocks. I got to choose one or the other. I guess if they've developed their board state like that.
Yeah. So after having like, 5 or 6 lands, then they can start casting their non-creature spells.
Yeah.
But it's really focusing on those early turns.
Yeah.
And
she's in way early to be there for it too.
Those early turns are usually for setup anyway. So like, when your opponents can't set up their big plays, it's like kind of, puts them on tilt almost. It's not something that they're used to. And then the second ability says whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell.
God damn.
Yeah. And I've been playing this a bit on Modo, and one thing I've noticed is that people are still trying to get used to that. So they go and they cast their spells, and they're like, "Why didn't that work? Why didn't that ability go off?" Oh, it got countered. Because no pact of negation for you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I like how asinine that transaction is too. Why didn't that work? I don't. Yeah, it got countered.
Yeah, my commander.
Like just how it comes out. Hey, what's going on? Was it glitched?
My list in particular really focuses in on that first ability. It kind of it wants to play out in the early game, kind of get in with a bunch of small creatures, that are kind of they're relevant effects. They want to stop with popular cards, popular strategies, and kind of slow them down so I can get in with these little aggressive creatures and just keep chipping away at my opponent's life totals with some nice evasion and all the good creatures.
Yeah, that's important to do. Get some things they can't really answer in there to get at their life total. Because like I was saying earlier, like I just struggle to find ways to do that in these colors.
Yeah. And you've seen other strategies like this in the past with things like Godic Teague. He suppresses your opponents in a different way, and they're very similar in some senses. Stopping non-creature spells of all things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. That's a mono white strategy that you'll see that kind of is that death and taxes, stopping your opponents from doing anything. But still getting in with those creatures.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. It's I've got a couple things that are more relevant to this particular strategy. And so I kind of wanted to focus on what makes this deck unique as opposed to the others that you've seen in the past. And that first thing first is that it adds blue. That's a color you don't see as much in Commander when it comes to like the hate bear strategy as opposed to stacks as a whole.
That's a good point.
You've got I've got a few in particular that I wanted to like focus on and point out. We talked about Azor the Lawbringer earlier, how it's stopping your opponents from casting instants and sorceries for a bit, and it's a nice 6/6 flyer as well, which is a nice addition to this particular strategy in this deck.
No slouch in combat for sure.
Yeah, I guess he does put it in for sure.
I've also got one of the newer cards, Azorius Sky Guard, in here. This was something that I added. It was spoiled after I think we did our deck tech, and it was something that I personally find a lot. I have a lot of interest in what this card does. It's a flying first strike. Creatures your opponents control get -1, -0.
What?
So it kind of takes a little bit of their teeth out from them.
Yeah, just kind of reducing the cost of your opponent's power, even though it's such a small amount. It kind of throws the game off a little bit because it only affects your opponents. So it's something that you'd be surprised how often that lends well to this particular type of strategy. Let's see what else I got here. Reflector Mage. That's it's blue-white, 3 mana. Enters the battlefield, stops your opponent from playing a creature for 2 turns. It says that creature's owner can't cast the spells with the same name. And so there's only one card in the deck that's going to have that name.
Reflector Mage, one of my favorite blink targets of all time.
Yeah. Let's see. I also got Void Mage Husher. So it's a 2/2 that costs 4 mana, counters a targeted activated ability, and you can return it back to your hand whenever you play a spell. It's also got flash, so you can do it at instant speed. Just kind of bring it in.
That's some techie stuff. I want to see that one actually get played around.
It's funny. I don't think we've ever actually seen somebody using the Void Mage Husher.
There's a lot of decks that it would be relevant for, like Lazav, the new Lazav.
Oh, for sure.
Because it can stop like a spell bomb or something, right? Doesn't it? Is that what it does? It counters it activated, right?
Yeah, counters target activated ability.
Yeah, like he's been looking for things to stop people from yarding him, you know what I mean? And the popular stuff here is like Tormod's Crypt, the Spell Bomb, right? So that's a good way for him to do it.
Yeah.
Huh. And it's an ETB.
Yeah, and I think, there's a lot to be said about the added color of blue that it, you have that control magic. You have the way of controlling your opponents out of the game with some of these effects and just kind of generally stopping them from doing certain things. And I focused mainly on adding things that kind of filled in some of the gaps of Lavinia's ability. So I mentioned that it's non-creature spells.
Yeah.
You know, that was one of the things. And it's also, it doesn't really stop green that well.
No way.
I know in my research, I was trying to figure out like, okay, well, how many green creature spells can I stop? And you know, I didn't find as much as I had hoped. I was hoping blue would be a bit more oppressive towards that color. But it wasn't that great. You
Turns
know,
out blue just hates red, right?
Yeah, blue hates red. Blue hates everyone equally. You know.
Yeah. But all I can really do is bounce the creature. I can't really. I mean, well, I don't know. There's Pongify and whatever, but I get it.
Yeah. So I've got a small counter package in here, and there were a couple I wanted to bring to light that kind of focused on this particular strategy in a little more depth, like Essence Scatter countering a creature spell. It's
yeah,
like,
I noticed that. I was like, he's running Essence Scatter, but I guess.
Yeah.
But since your commander takes care of the other side.
Yeah, at least as far as for cheat, people trying to cheat stuff in.
Yeah, and you're just dealing with that one player who because we played this deck. I played it on the EDH Lounge recently, and I was mentioning during that gameplay that like across the table from me was PJ from Commander Replay, and he was playing Nakia of the Old Ways,
Sick.
and that's just all creatures.
Yeah. So I'm Essence Scatter's ready to go. Oh yeah, dude. Negate's not going to do anything against Nakia. One more reason you should build it.
Yeah. Memory Lapse is another one. It kind of, you know, fate seals your opponent, makes them replay that card during their next turn. You know, they have to redraw, slowing them down just a little bit.
Yeah,
you know,
tempo time.
Yeah, there's a lot of tempo in this deck in that regard. I think, you know, we also mentioned like Blink. The Azorius lends really well into the Blink strategy. And so that's kind of what I was going. And I've watched other content where people have you know, played when they're playing Death and Taxes, they kind of lean into the Blink strategy, because while you're stopping your opponents from, say, searching their deck or playing non-creature spells, it still allows you to play your own creatures and then, you know, rely on that creature strategy. And so you're just like, oh, I'll play some Enter the Battlefield effects, and I'll keep it going, keep repeating those Blink creatures.
I noticed you've got quite a few creatures in your list that have some pretty hot Enter the Battlefield effects that I would definitely want to have multiple times.
He does a Blade Splicer, man.
Yeah, Blade Splicer.
Yeah.
We need a Splicer commander, dude. That'd be so sick.
Dude.
If we ever go back to New Phyrexia, it could happen.
I'd be into it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, there's I run Blade and Wing Splicer, so it's like first strike flying 3/3s seems pretty threatening to your opponents.
Right, and if you keep flicking them in and out, you're gonna keep getting a golem.
I'm into that.
They're dope.
That was like the first deck that you had that was like functional, right?
Yeah. So when I was learning to play the game, I was so fucking bad at deck building. Like I remember my brother making this mono green deck, and I'm like, I can't beat it. There is no way to beat this. It's impossible. Like I remember thinking, like, there's just no way to.
Brad has discovered the best thing.
Yeah, it's like it is. It's just the best thing. And I remember like talking to this guy at my work who he had introduced me to the game. He just fucking laughed at me, man. He was just like, "That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard." Like, there's plenty of ways to deal with a green deck, a mono green deck. I mean, at the time, you know, like I don't fucking know anything, man. I haven't played this game, you know. But yeah, like one of the first functional decks I thought was like working for me was my Splicer. It was Bant colors, actually. It was white. Because there's a pretty heavy hitting green one. I think she actually brings 2 golems in with her. She's like one of the only Splicers that does that. And then she gives them trample. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna add green into this. You know, it was probably not necessary, but the Blade Splicer was really big in Birthing Pod at the time.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, as we like learned the game later on, like it just, you know, but yeah, Splicers are sick.
That was the deck that you put in my hands when you were getting me to play too. You were
because it was the only one that worked. If I would have handed you the rest of them, you were like, this game is dog shit.
Kyle, play this, and I was
can't win this green deck.
Starting to feel the connection. I'm like, oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, it was sick.
All right, Austin. Sorry for the divergence.
No. Yeah.
Sorry, some reflection. You know, Splicers are close to our heart for some reason.
Splicers are pretty good. You know, I was thinking of Rune. Rune kind of leans into that Bant Blink strategy that you were talking about.
Dude,
you know?
Kyle, There it is, man.
It's a sign.
It's a sign. We're making rune golem tribal. I demand it.
Yeah, there's a few targets with that, you know, like there's like 4 or 5 golem, you know,
Yeah, that's
flickering creatures, and then you're done.
The rest of the deck is built to tutor those things.
Your battle sphere. I mean, you know, if you take your glasses off, they look like golems.
I got a couple other blink targets in here that I wanted to bring to note, and Spell Seekers, one of those newer ones that really
dude.
It feels underrated sometimes, but it's like it's so powerful, you know.
Yeah.
Searching for any instant or sorcery with CMC 2 or less from your deck, and I mentioned I have that counter package, so like I'm just gonna go grab any or all of my counter spells from my deck and
Counter Spell Seeker.
Time of need.
You put this in your Vanifar list, right, Andy?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It's hot.
Trophy Mage was another one that was very particular for this deck that I added in later, that it kind of grabbed me one of my key pieces. Like I play a small sword package in here as well. So I want to, you know, find other ways to give these creatures evasion and find a way to get in some chip damage over at my opponents and gain some added value. So, you know, Trophy Mage gets me any artifact with CMC 3 and puts it into my hand. So I'll grab, you know, Fire Nice from my deck, or
is that the first sword you grab?
Yeah.
I noticed a certain sort of feast and famine in the list as well.
That is also in there, you know, it being able to untap my lands.
Even if there wasn't a single Golgari deck across from me, I'd be like, I gotta do it. I gotta get that. I gotta get it.
Getting all those lands untapped is pretty sexy right now.
Yeah. There are a couple other creatures that I wanted to mention in regards to Blink that I focus in on the repeatable Blink aspect of it. So while there are some creatures that, or even spells that allow you to, you know, blink a creature for, you know, you use that card, you know, you use it once, like that's it. I wanted to bring attention to the activated abilities that kind of get you that flicker effect, you know.
Okay.
Returning a creature with like Miss Meadow Witch, that's 4 mana, exile target creature, and then return it to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So it's 4 mana. You can do that multiple times during a turn at any time you so choose.
To protect something, to dodge a board wipe, even.
Exactly.
Somebody tries to steal your shit.
You know, the nice thing with the Miss Meadow Witch is it doesn't say like other target creature. So
she can do herself.
She can do herself.
Oh,
Yes.
wild. I mean, the Deadeye can do that.
Yeah,
can even,
I mean, the Deadeye has it on itself.
I
Yeah,
mean,
Yeah.
we can't start comparing shit to the Deadeye now.
No, that's honestly, I consider Deadeye one of those, like, it's 6 mana. It's a big threat when people see it hit the board. So I kind of sometimes exclude it from my deck because it's like, unless I'm going to combo with it, which generally, if you've seen any of our content, we don't do much of that. It brings a big target on itself, and for 6 mana, I'm like, I don't want to pay that much just to have it go away, you know?
yeah,
It's really good.
It's a good point, because there's some cards that just have that sort of I don't know, just that
Reputation.
Reputation that, like, regardless of, you may just be using it just for a little extra value, but its reputation precedes it, and you're not going to get to use it the way you want to.
It's definitely one of those cards that's developed a like Al Capone level reputation.
That's true, right?
You know, people might not know exactly what he did, like what he do, but everybody.
They
knows
know
what
he did bad stuff.
It's the only reason I have Felwar Stone and Gonti. And I'm like, if I encounter it though, I need that blue to activate it.
Yeah.
You know. And Felwar Stone's dope, but yeah.
Yeah, any 2 mana rock in Gonti gets you.
There was a period there when no one
ran.
ran it, right? Because they had the weird rule where you couldn't even.
Yeah.
Or you can produce colors, right? Or the outside of
Yeah, but then they changed it where like it just becomes so like if you have a Felwar Stone in play and like in a monocolored deck now, it just basically gives you colorless. Like is what you can use it for. Like you can assign it. Like you just couldn't. Right? Wasn't there a rule where it gets removed from your mana pool? Like if if mana ever went into your mana pool that didn't match your color identity, it like got wiped out.
I remember having discussions about that, but not frequently enough that I actually knew the.
I could be wrong because I remember at Fellwar Stone just like not being a card that a lot of people ran, you know, and then all of a sudden like upticked, and now it's kind of a pricier mana rock now, isn't it? Like it's
possibly. I think it saw
like,
some recent.
It's like $230.
It's like it's like a $3 mana rock, you know.
It's more than you'd expect it to be.
Yeah,
for sure.
So let's see what else. I got Angel of Condemnation. I think was another blink.
What does
repeatable blink.
Is that the exert one?
It's the exert one, yeah. So it's 4 mana. It flying vigilance. So you know, exerting is pretty good when you have vigilance, and it also you can just tap it to exile another creature and return it to the battlefield at the end step. You don't have to exert it to like, you know, exile another creature until it leaves. So it doubles, you know, it's removal or it's blink.
That's actually pretty cool.
Where have we been on that card?
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't been using that, but that's actually
why they pay Austin the big bucks right here.
Right?
Yeah.
Dude.
I
this guy
really
a pay
focus
raise.
in on those you know, added value. It's like that's my biggest thing. It's like what does it give me? You know?
Yeah.
I see a lot of times people play cards and they're like, okay, well, this is just a one-off, you know. It does the one thing, I'm done with it. Now I'm down to 6 cards. Let's try again later, you know. And play a lot of ways to refill their hands afterwards, you know.
Yeah, I'm way into that.
Yeah. I'm big on the keeping things coming, keeping the, you know, keeping a body on board. Like I love enter the battlefield effects, and I think that's what leans into this deck pretty well.
Yeah, you're riding on it pretty hard.
That's dope.
Another big element to this deck that kind of you know, gets kind of like blurred from a lot of people because they see stacks, you know, and they automatically
I see Thorn of Amethyst down there.
Yeah, they lean more towards the like, oh well, I'm gonna press my opponents out of the game and hope to slow things down to almost a halt, you know, and hope to recover from that.
Okay.
You know, I focus on more like, you know, like little small effects that kind of slow things down just to annoy my opponents and really, you know, not really anger them because I don't want them to focus me. I don't want them to take me out of the game for just, you know, throwing down an alms collector, which, you know, you prevent the card draw. You know, you get to draw a card and then your opponent also loses a card draw. You know, they get really upset when that sits around for too long.
Okay.
Like, look, I'm just trying to bring equality to the table.
Yeah. It's supposed to be the fair
champion of the
strategy.
people here, okay?
Yeah, I'm helping the other 2 players out. I'm helping the whole table. Don't worry about my couple of creatures.
I'm helping by hurting.
Yeah,
helping
exactly.
by hurting.
Even Mind Sensor, you know, you're kind of familiar with that one. It just flashes into play, stops your opponents from searching their entire library, you know, and a lot of people lean on that.
It could be in the top
tutor,
4, potentially.
You know, yeah, top 4. It could be.
It might be there. I mean, you know,
you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. It also works for like the fetch lands, which a lot of people play a lot of lands that search up from your library too.
I never even think to do that to like hose people when they're doing those types of things, but that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you're petty. Can't even let me clean my mana.
Shouldn't have put it in your deck, dude.
Yeah.
Should have had a 5-color deck, dude.
Yeah, you got to play around those sort of things.
You really do, though, because
know,
once the 5-color comes online, now it's like, it is really your own enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A couple other, like, you know, stopping your opponents from getting extra value from their artifacts and from their creatures. I've got, you know, Blind Obedience, which kind of makes all your opponent's creatures enter the battlefield tap. So it's something that really affects everyone else but you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
I focus on the ones that kind of affect everyone else but you. That's a very critical point of my, you know, soft stacks deck building strategy. It's like I don't want to stop me from doing anything. I like playing cards.
I'm still playing Magic. You guys are just playing junior Magic.
Exactly. Thalia, Heretic Cathar kind of does a similar thing. Non-basic lands also enter tapped, and there's a lot of greedy mana bases out there. Everyone wants to play those non-basics. So one thing that Lavinia kind of lends into and kind of focusing on those non-basic lands is that I've got a couple ways of like dealing with lands. So like, single target land destruction is kind of one of those strategies that's like really fair to stop up. And so I've got, your wasteland and strip mine. It's like destroy it, just a single land, and that kind of keeps the Lavinia count down as well. Keep them on 4 lands instead of 5. Yeah,
and I mean, what's funny is I don't think any of us really jumped on buying strip mines, but I know you have Ghost Quarter in your list as well, and like, let's just get that Cabal Coffers replaced with a basic land, right?
You gotta do it.
Exactly, and I think when they started introducing the flip lands as a big key point, I think like cards like Ghost Quarter see a lot more value.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've also got the one that's the Gaia's Cradle when it flips. That one.
Yeah, the Spires of Erazga. Yeah, or no, I'm thinking of that's the maze myth. That removes.
Yeah, the
combat,
mazes. Yeah.
But anyway, because I was just thinking, we actually had somebody in our last gameplay video play a Ghost Quarter on the Spires of Erazga because it flipped over.
Yeah,
that was so fucking funny.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have that single, and I think it's not too egregious to kind of get rid of those pesky lands, because you've got to like focus your deck on a couple different strategies, like kind of deal with graveyards, deal with some powerful lands, deal with some like those popular strategies I was talking about. It's like these are things people are going to be doing, and so I no, like you can't do that when I bring out Lavinia.
No.
I've got a few things that kind of like I said, I focus really a lot on that first ability because I have a few ways that kind of don't interact well with that second ability, that one that says counter a spell unless no mana was spent to cast it. They're taxing effects in this deck that if you increase the cost of your opponent's spell, then they are paying mana to cast it.
So they can do it.
Oh,
so they can do it. They can get around that ability, and so you've got to kind of like
think about
play into that strategy and figure out when is the appropriate time to tax my opponents, as opposed to like causing them to pay more with their mana base. Because like I feel like I use the early turns to get Lavinia out to stop them from casting spells with their mana rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the game progresses, you kind of lose some of that tempo that you've built up in the early game. And so it's like when your opponent has 8 or 9 mana, you're not really stopping your opponents from casting non-creature spells. So I'm going to just make them pay a little bit more.
Yeah.
Slow them down. That's how I'll quote unquote stop them.
I like that. And I think, I guess a takeaway for me from that is like, it's not, this isn't necessarily going to be a deck that you just kind of like play it out. Like you've got to be a little more savvy about what you're doing and when you're doing it and how you're forcing people to play.
Yeah. And it also kind of brings to the table like, well, what is everyone playing that game or that week? Because then you kind of, your strategy changes up quite a bit to based on if like everyone's playing creature decks. It's like you gotta focus more on your counter spells and your chip damage as opposed to like
just try to outvalue them with your flicker too.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were saying that big green creature deck, it's gotta outvalue them.
Yeah. I still don't know how to beat them, dude. It can't be done.
All these years later, can't figure it out.
What are you playing? I'm playing Monogream Stompy. All right, I screwed.
Yeah, so I've got
I'm gonna go play
Thalia.
Smash Bros.
They just have too much health. They just can't deal with it.
Yeah. So I've got Thalia, I've got the Viren Wingmare, and Thorn of the Amethyst. They all tax your opponent's non-creature spells, cost 1 more to cast.
So it lets them out of the lock a little bit if they're cheating.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can kind of play around, like, you know, there's some games like people aren't even playing blue. Like you see Pact of Negation or Force of Will a lot in games, and it's like if they're not playing blue, then you don't have to worry about the countering ability as much.
Sure.
It stops Cascade, though.
Yeah, it does.
But a Yidris player is going to just go, fuck you. And like, just,
I'm going to set my deck aside.
She's a pretty big counter to him, that deck.
Yeah.
You know? Omniscience, too. Like, not that that's a huge card, but.
Yeah, and you'll see removal. It's a 2-drop. It'll go away sometimes.
Yeah.
I've got Rhystic Study in here as well, and I also included the new Smothering Tithe.
Ooh,
as
yeah.
well. You know,
Sign me
that
up.
card is absolutely incredible.
Have you had time with it yet? Like you've actually
had it? We had a game, one of our gameplay videos. I'm gonna kind of give away the ending, but that card won this guy the game. Like, you know,
that's reassuring.
Yeah, when you think about that card, it's 4 mana for this enchantment that when an opponent draws a card, you know, they pay 2, and you create a treasure. So every turn you're at minimum creating 3 treasures.
Yeah, because nobody's going to pay that cost.
No one's going to do that.
No,
send themselves into a mana negative position to keep
really
you from
need
getting
to.
1.
So it's like a better Thran Dynamo at minimum.
Oh yeah,
you know, because it's going to get you 3 mana turn, and it's like anytime an opponent wants to draw a card, which, you know, players like drawing cards. I don't know if that it's news to you.
Yeah, it turns out in this format.
Yeah, it turns out that
I'm going to let you go ahead and keep
heavy
that.
Provisions on card drawing in almost every commander deck.
Yeah.
And I like you kind of pairing that with, you know, I mean, if somebody else has Rhystic Study, I mean, obviously, like here in your deck, whatever, but if somebody else gets their Rhystic Study, like, yeah, I'm not going to pay the cost. No, are you going to pay mine?
Well, there's such and for this deck, it's really great because there's a lot of activated abilities you've got peppered in here where you can commit the treasure to that, where you're, because I'm kind of looking at them like, this is a mana demanding things. Like that Mist-Meta Witch ain't cheap, but with this in play,
and I think that's
you're just buying me flickers.
That's kind of where the later game ties into it as well. It's like, you know, I prefer those activated abilities as the game progresses, because that's something you need to kind of like do to stabilize, because again, your opponent can just play through that first ability. You know, what's 9 lands at that point?
Yeah,
good point.
Yeah, eventually that ability is going to make less and less sense, or be less and less.
Yeah, you need other tools in play.
She's just going to be more of cardboard than commander eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why I built it very aggressive. You know, very small creatures, attack, turn sideways. There were 2 other cards that kind of like focused on Lavinia itself in that second ability, and it's kind of the last thing I'm going to touch up on with this deck. It's Release to the Wind and Spell Queller. You know, the 2 of those, they exile a non-land permanent for Release to the Wind. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may cast it without paying its mana cost. Well, Lavinia is going to stop them from playing it.
Ooh.
And
that's pretty spicy right there.
Yeah, and Spell Queller is kind of the same way. It's converted mana 4 or less that it exiles the spell, but as long as it's on the battlefield, you know, once it leaves, then they can cast it. But if Lavinia sticks around, well, they can't. They can't cast it, and then you miss the timing.
That's wild.
Restrictions on that.
Those are some really unique. I like that. That's really clever.
Yeah. A couple things I've kind of changed, and if you've seen our deck tech, I included a little bit more card draw in this deck. So I've got like the Loyal Drake and the Bygone Bishop now, because they're both working on Loyal Drake is Lieutenant. You know, at the beginning of your combat, you know, if you control your commander, draw a card. Well, it's 2 mana Lavinia, 3 mana Loyal Drake.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I'm into it.
And
I actually really like
Bishop.
What does the Bygone Bishop do again?
Whenever you cast a creature spell with converted mana cost 3 or less, investigate.
Oh,
make a clue.
So he's kind of like a, what's that called? Mentor of the Meek a little bit.
Yes,
with a
yeah,
wider,
that's in
with like
here
kind
as
of a
well.
wider range.
Yeah.
Yeah, just all the card draw. But yeah, that's pretty much the strategy, you know, kind of playing into these small creatures.
Yeah, go ahead and add that to my deck right quick. That bygone bishop.
Bygone bishop. Yes.
That's pretty cool. And I notice you know, like you avoided some of the things, like your current list avoids some of the things that might really tempt a Lavinia player, like dream halls. And I noticed I noticed in your deck tech that you had talked initially about Iona being a possibility to go along with Lavinia, but it's you have some kind of moral compass or something, Austin, because you're not like super mean. You're like, I'm just trying to keep some equality.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
And
I'm hoping I can sneak in a win. With it, you know?
Yeah, I like
really
that.
like this list a lot.
Yeah, that's
really
actually really rad. Because I think you could get carried away with Lavinia and just be like, make it so it's the salt-inducing game and everybody's unhappy by the end of it. But you've got a list that I think pitches the value in your favor.
Yeah, because you could easily go mass land destruction in this. You know, just kind of wipe
just
things
lean in
out.
on that. Well, you don't even have lands.
Can't cast anything if you don't have any lands. You know?
I really like the list a ton. I like how flexible it is, like early game, mid game. Like this thing's great.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're not just like leaning on her 2 text lines completely. I think that's kind of like I find myself doing that a lot, honestly. Like I lean really hard on the commander, like what it's asking me to do, you know, where this is like, yeah, I mean, there's some things that make sense, you know, like what is it? The one where it exiles them and they can recast it, and then the spell queller.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like,
so release to the wind and spell.
Yeah.
queller.
Like that's like something specific for her. Have you thought about putting delay in this deck for a counterspell?
Yeah, I definitely.
I mean, she'd have to be around by the time it comes around. I was thinking, I'm like, that'd be pretty funny, but she still has to be there by the time the time counters come off of it.
Yeah, if you do the timing right and you kind of, you know, make sure it's not a creature spell. You know, that's what you're delaying as well.
I mean, it could happen. Yeah. It's 3 turns away, my dude. And not if your commander's around. Well, I mean, you know. I mean, you know, it's not gone.
But to the point that you're bringing up, though, Andy, I think like there's something to be said for a deck that's built in a way that you can still push forward and win the game, even if your commander's not on the battlefield. You know?
Yeah, this definitely can do
that.
And
this can definitely do that.
Not that she's even going to help you win anyway. Like, there's nothing about her language that say, all right, this is, you know, like she's definitely concerned with what your opponents are doing more than what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what this does, and that's what I like about it. I think it's very interesting for Azorius.
So you've already had her out and about, right? You've already had some games. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, we were able to play it. I played it on the EDH lounge, and I definitely I saw a lot of the card draw elements in that particular game, where like the Loyal Drake in particular put in a ton of work. You know, you'd be surprised just leaving that creature on the battlefield with your commander. You know, as the rounds keep going around, it's like, what? It's just a 2/2 for 3. You know, what do I have to worry about that?
Yeah, it's actually pretty dope. Huh?
I put it in my Erixmith's list because it's just.
Oh, it's a land.
Yeah, it's a land.
Yeah, like I've got my commander out. Like I'm just gonna get my card draw. Like,
let me go ahead and put that in my list too, really quick.
Speaking of your list, Andy.
Hey man, I'm not fucking shy. It's a good damn card. You know?
What do you got for us?
Who needs EDH rec when you got Austin? What? Oh yeah, I probably should do mine. Sorry, forgot. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. So for how much shit I was talking on Grand Arbiter Augustin IV, I'm just gonna lean on it right now with this shit.
You're like, welcome to the table.
Yeah. So let's pull him out. So yeah, pretty infamous commander. I don't think he's up there with Brago in the level of, you know, infamy. But
he's in Brago's deck.
Yeah, he's kind of like I hate to use this comparison. He's like the Jeffrey Dahmer to Brago being like Ted Bundy. Like everybody knows who Ted Bundy is.
Oh
You know, but only the truly sadistic know who Jeffrey Dahmer is, or Ed Gein or something. Look, I watched that documentary last week. Sue me. You know, it's contextually relevant.
Ted Bundy's on the mind, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
So, and we live in Utah, where we just had the Sundance Film
So we had to watch it.
Yeah,
he was doing his.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're in Florida. He was there too. You guys took him down, right?
Yeah, you guys got to fry him.
Actually, got to had a Ted Bundy cook-off. But yeah, I don't know. I think I wanted to kind of have something relevant to the new cards that have come out. So mine's going to be the Persistent Petitioners is what I'm going to be focused on for this deck. So he's in the deck, like he's the commander, but he's not really like the focus of what we're about to do.
Okay.
Because I feel like the last, 3 I've done or 2 some of these I just like, I've done like the old school stuff. So I did Wart, I did Selenia, and then...
Yeah, and you kind of did an old and a new with...
though. Yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah. This will just be my way of rounding it off because I have an old-ass card with new-ass cards in the 99. So the Persistent Petitioners, like just to kind of frame why we're doing the deck, they're 1 in a blue for a creature human advisor. You can pay 1 and tap, and target player puts a top card of their library into their graveyard. Or you could tap 4 untapped advisors you control, and target player puts the top 12 cards of their library into their graveyard. And then this last line of text, which really makes them compelling, and that's why I say them, is a deck can have any number of cards named Persistent Petitioners. There are 1-3.
Yeah, I've been pretty excited to hear about Persistent Petitioners because this has been one of those hot button topics of like, where does this go? What do we do with this?
Right.
How do we abuse it?
So up until now, and I think when I first saw this, I was like, man, I hope they keep doing this. Like, I hope we get like a red. What are they calling it? Relentless cards is kind of what they're calling
kind of like a Relentless Rats.
Yeah, to harken back to the original, which was Relentless Rats, and then after that was Colony Rats. So up until now, we've only had small mammals represented in black for this type of effect. Rodents. So this is kind of a new corner we've turned in the Magic multiverse.
Yeah, well, you also got the Shadowborn Apostle.
I take it back.
There is that.
I take it back. I completely forgot about those bastards.
That guy, yeah. Demon.
Yeah, I take it back. So, okay. All right, hang on. We'll cut that out, and what we'll just say is it's only been a black effect up until now. Smart ass. Anyway, so I don't know, like, I can imagine things like, I don't know, do you think it'd be busted if they did a goblin?
I'm sure it would be.
Wouldn't it be pretty broke?
Because what's funny is I just can't,
I
can't stop thinking about
a 1/1 for 1. That's all it is. You can have 20 of these just like 1/1 for 1s. Nah, that'd be too weak. That wouldn't even be like exciting at all. I'm trying to think of like how they could do a goblin that like you can have any number of them in your deck, but they're good enough where you would want to go out of your way to do it.
It's just like the offspring of Squee or something like that,
Squo. Squo. Squash. So yeah, the whole deck's going to be centered around that. And the reason we're doing the Grand Arbiter is that he himself is an advisor, so he contributes to this whole like
the body count.
Yeah, the body count. I want to say like
let's hold on. Let's back up. The vermin count.
The vermin count. I want to say like I'm going to call this second line of text on their ability their lobbying ability is what I say.
Okay.
Because that's what's kind of going on in the picture, right? They're like begging for something. But yeah, so since he's an advisor, you really actually need to come up with 3 other advisors.
Okay.
And if one of them is a persistent petitioner, then you're good to go with that second ability that decks them for 12. Yeah, and he reduces their cost. So they're only 1 blue. So he's cut their cost in half so you can kind of churn them out quicker. So decks like this, like I'll just get this out of the way now. Anytime you have a deck where it's, where there's multiplicative of a card that you can have with the same name. So yeah, like Shadowborn Apostles, the Relentless Rats, the Colony Rats. Always this card floats to the top, and it's called the Thrumming Stone. So it's 5 mana. It says spells you control have Ripple 4. And then it has a very long paragraph of whenever you play a spell, you may reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may play any revealed cards with the same name as the spell without paying their mana cost. And then you put the rest on the bottom of your library. So this kind of causes like a chain reaction type effect with these type of cards, right? So you reveal the top 4. Let's say you find a petitioner and play it, right? Because it just says play a spell, and then we go again. So you just keep going until you can't finish, I guess. So a lot of decks are very, very interested in getting that into play as soon as possible, so they can kind of take advantage of the numbers game that is their deck. Because the longer the game goes, like they've kind of developed them naturally or whatever, you know. Yeah, I've heard a lot of talk of people just doing like, what's the dude's name? Arkham Dogson is the commander, purely just to fetch this out and then go off.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, which I guess, but like his whole thing is like you sacrifice a creature artifact. Well, anybody can, but you basically sacrifice a creature artifact and you turn it into play a non-creature artifact. So a lot of the time with him, it's cheating in things like Darksteel Forge and you know, like just big heavy-handed artifacts like Planar Bridge. I don't know, doing a Planar Bridge too early wouldn't really help you because of the activated, but specifically for this, it's let's go grab the Thrumming Stone as soon as possible. So, yeah, this is in the deck, of course. I gotta warn you though, it ain't cheap, and I think it's
not anymore.
Yeah, it's a $30 card.
Yeah, so with Shadowborn Apostles kind of having a huge uptick in popularity lately, like this went up with it, and I don't know if Rat Colony is really pushing this card. I think it really is the Shadowborn Apostles that's pushing it up.
Yeah, and I think the spoiler of Persistent Petitioner is like $1, you know,
already.
Like
yeah,
common.
People get into those things.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I mean, say one thing for Andy. I have expensive tastes. So let's go through some of these other advisors. I didn't really include every advisor. There's actually a lot in Azorius typing.
Okay.
There's the one that does the elocutors, like after you get so many filibuster counters, you just win the game. Like there's things like that. You could put them in because it's kind of like a hate sink, right? Like they're going to either destroy that or get decked out, one or the other.
What are you going to do?
I just didn't do it. There's one that where it enters the battlefield, you like name a card and they just can't cast cards with that name.
Oh.
Right? Is that what it is? I think they're an advisor too. I didn't include that either. The ones I landed on weren't that many because I was like, I'm just going to lean on the petitioners, but you can bring the petitioner number down. I'm at 20, just in case you're wondering. I'm at 20, but you can bring it down, but think about other advisors that help you along. Okay. A lot of people seem to include ones that just do nothing. They're just low CMC and are advisors, but these guys are already 2. You know?
Yeah.
Like they're already 2 mana, and with our commander, they're cut down to 1. So I just didn't see a lot of reason why to divert away from that. You know, and then some of them are like from, what is it, Portals of the Three Kingdoms or whatever it is. Like they're not even cheap for what you're getting. So advisor time. I did go with the Droning Bureaucrats.
Okay.
So they're 3 and a white. You can pay X and tap, and it says each creature with converted mana cost X can't attack or block this turn. So it's just kind of a really shitty pillow fort.
But it's an advisor.
Yeah, but it's an advisor. Yeah. I felt like in an emergency, because you're not really interested in blocking with these guys, right? Like you're trying to develop them along. You can, if you're desperate, you'll do it, but you know what I mean? I thought, okay, we'll do that one. There's another one that just taps a creature. That one's probably more prudent than this one. So I just kind of chose the more heavier handed one between the two. The next one is Michiko Konda.
I didn't realize she was an advisor. That one's dope.
Fucking amazing. So she's 3 and a white for a legendary creature, human advisor. There's actually commander decks built around her.
Yeah, speaking of expensive taste.
Yeah, like she really just, it's cards like this that make me kind of just think, I don't know, like I'd take her over a Ghostly Prison.
Oh, man.
People are not coming near you because her ability says whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you, that player sacrifices a permanent. So if they're going tall, probably not that big of a deal. If they're going wide, though,
yeah, it's defensive annihilator, basically. Like
a little bit. Like they're not really going to mess with you at all with that. Any kind of like pingery type effects or anything that's just like incidental. Perforos is just going to be hard to play. They can't. Yeah, like they're going to think if they resolve Perforos and then you resolve Michiko Konda, it's going to be pretty rough.
Huh?
Because they don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
You know, and every time they resolve anything new, they've got to sack. Pretty much, I don't know if they've got a combo set up, whatever, but it's gonna hurt. Yeah. So she's an advisor. The Orzhov Advocist kind of had to go over to the other guild for a minute to get us another advisor. It's 2 and a white. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, each player may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature he or she controls. If a player does, the creatures that player controls can't attack you or a planeswalker you control until next turn. It's a 1/4. So we've seen this played quite a bit. You kind of know what people's intentions are with this. Because if they choose not to do the counters, like, well, duh, you know they're coming your way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But that means you can just say, all right, well, then I can be on the back foot and prepare for that attack. So you can start thinking about, well, am I going to do the droning bureaucrat thing? You know, am I going to not develop anything further I can
cast that Aetherize.
Yeah, like whatever your because it's during your turn this is happening.
Yeah,
that's what's important. It's not their turn where you're now developed all the way out. So like, let's say, like, just trying to walk you through the interaction we've seen. So let's say it's me and you playing, and you know, like, Austin has a bunch of his aggressive creatures set up early game. I'm asking him, like, all right, do you want to make them bigger? And if he says no, then it's like, okay, well, fuck. Well, now I need to think about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's usually no.
Yeah, it's usually no.
Sure, dude.
So I actually like this card for that. It's a good advisor to kind of include. And then
I don't like planning that far ahead, dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not that I'm coming at you. It's just I don't know.
There's other advisors out there, and I think there'll be more on the way, I'm sure. That tap one probably would be a good idea.
Yeah, so that's the Minister of Impediments, right?
Yeah, doesn't it just tap a creature?
So it's tap target creature.
I'd be all over that if it lets you untap a creature too. I don't know. Yeah, I can see him replacing the droning bureaucrats.
That would be an instant ad for this deck with the Persistent Petitioners if you could untap.
Yeah,
right?
you'd be all over that. Yeah.
Well, I think the strategy is great because you don't necessarily need to lean too heavily on Persistent Petitioners as much.
You only really need one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the more they come out with it are more compelling. But if you look at the list, a lot of them do nothing. You know, like there's a lot of advisors out there that are either like their CMC's higher than theirs, and the reason they're not compelling enough to include. SRAM's there, he's an advisor, but
like he's not gonna fit there very well.
Yeah,
I think you just need to put Tobias Andrian in here, dude.
What does he do again?
He does nothing. He's a 4/4 for 5.
Yeah, see,
and he has some flavor text.
See what I mean? Like at that altitude, I'd be more interested in doing like a Silent Arbiter or something and just forgetting it. You know, for just holding off a little longer. But 12 cards is a lot. Like once they see the lobbying coming, like people are going to get a little irritated.
That's a big mill.
Yeah, it's a big mill.
Yeah. And people don't like seeing their cards go into the bin.
Isn't it interesting? Really like it's so fascinating because I've always been I've had this saying for a long time.
Yeah.
Trust your deck, because it aggravates people to see their cards go to their graveyard. They're like, I needed that. Oh, I needed to draw that land. And it's like, but don't you have more land in your deck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's something psychological about it that people hate it.
Yeah. That mill is not going to feel good. And then, yeah, there's always like the threat of they have a permanent in their deck, Ulamog, Kozilek, that makes them unmillable. You know? So that exists too, but I don't know. We have ways to deal with that with graveyard hate. You just got to be on the nose with it. So I don't know. Kind of think like if you ever kind of think about doing a petitioner's deck, like maybe figure that out. In the playtesting I did, I just wanted a petitioner at all times at the very least, and I kept finding that a lot of these other ones that are out there, the advisors weren't that compelling. There was I even had Masako the Humorless at one point, and basically what she does is you can flash her into play, and you can block with creatures that are even tapped. So if you've done the lobbying thing and you appear helpless, you can suddenly jump up and block. But I'm like, why would I? You know what I mean? Like my vehicle to kill them, my ability to remove them from the game is through these petitioners.
Right.
I'm not super into blocking with them, but hey, you never know. You know, like sometimes you gotta just get somebody in the front.
I just want you to put a bunch of vote cards in so you can use the ballot broker and Brago's representative.
I tried that too, but there's actually the vote cards, the original ones, like they're not that great, dude. They're not. Yeah.
There's a reason we don't see them.
Yeah, there's a reason like you just don't see them. Like if they print more, if we do Conspiracy 3 and they go back to more like if they have the language vote in there, dude, I'd be all over that. All right, so moving away from just Advisor Town, thinking about ways to protect them. There's ways that make sense with their tap ability. Okay. So if you flicker them, because their second ability doesn't require a tap, you can still just spam that ability a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So I
because
put
they say
Eerie
tap
Interlude
for advisors.
Yeah, I put Eerie Interlude and its expensive cousin Ghost Away in there. So it says, so Eerie Interlude says exile any number of target creatures you control. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So you can play this defensively, I guess, like against an attack. Like if people are coming at you, you can kind of throw them away. But the big thing here is that I can tap the petitioners and then pass a turn. And then if something comes up where somebody's trying to remove them or whatever, even if nothing happens, I can, right before the turn begins, flicker them again, dump another 12 on you, and then start my turn, and then we've got another 12.
I'm into that.
Ghost Away is kind of the same thing. It just says 2 and a white, remove each creature you control from the game. Each of those, or return those creatures to play under their owner's control at the end of turn. So, again, they dodge board wipes this way. You can get an extra flicker out of them, or not an extra lobbying out of them for the next turn after. So yeah, and then yeah, Teferi's Protection doesn't let you get another flicker off, but you really don't want to lose them if you've developed a lot of them, right?
Oh yeah.
And then there's kind of a backwater way of doing this, protecting your, at least the number that you're controlling. It's called Remembrance, another card that keeps going up in price. So it's 3 and a white. It says whenever a non-token creature you control is put into a graveyard, you may search your library for a copy of that creature card. If you do, reveal that card and put it into your hand and shuffle your library afterward. So if any of them die, you just tutor and draw that many. So you're pretty much holding your number.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's popular with
I was gonna say that would be
those apostles I forgot.
I was gonna say with the Athreos and the Shadowborn Apostles.
Yeah,
that would,
because they die on purpose. So that's another way to kind of keep the count up.
Yeah.
So again, another reason why I was leaning harder on them than adding just weird advisors, because this card would be weaker with the more non-petitioner advisors you have in your pool, the weaker this card gets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Asymmetric board wipes also make sense with them because of their power. So like things like Citywide Bust. This is kind of a newer one. It just says 1, a white and white, destroy all creatures with toughness 4 or greater. So you wipe out, but you're holding your advisors. And there's a lot of these.
So
there's Dusk to Dawn, right? That actually rides pretty well with this deck. It's 2 and a white, or 2 white, destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. But then it has the aftermath effect of return all creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. So you can regrip them again. So even if they die some by other mean, you can
get it back
at a later date. Yeah, get the Dawn going. There's actually a lot of effects like this. There was one other one that was like Fell the Mighty, but it's like 5 mana. So I didn't include that one in here. Instead, I went with Slaughter the Strong. It's 1, a white and a white. Each player chooses any number of creatures he or she controls with power 4 or less, then sacrifices all other creatures he or she controls. So this is actually a sacrifice.
Okay.
So it'll bring down an Eldrazi, like specifically Ulamog or whatever indestructible giant you're needing to get rid of because they have to sacrifice it. Is the idea with this one. It's actually from Rivals of Ixalan. Yeah. So I don't know. It makes sense to try to board wipe and keep them around. You could include Crackdown or Meekstone in this too. I don't know. I don't know how to balance those cards off with the amount of focus I feel like this strategy is going to pull. Because once people see what's kind of going on, they're going to be scrambling to try to come after you / remove your stuff. And this one's a little...
Yeah, I mean, the more problems that you create for people, the more you have to force people into having to threat assess, right?
Yeah, I kind of... I mean, I don't know, Austin, if you feel the same way, but I like to be as threatening as one other guy and have somebody agonize over what they're going to do. You know what I mean? Who are you going to choose? Where here, it's like, you know, like there's a lot of with a Meekstone or Crackdown out, it's pretty obvious who needs to be handled first before anyone can move on. And it's not hurting you at all. You're just milling and milling and milling, and you're not getting affected by it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why it's a really great pick for the deck, but there's no way to like spin this politically, cards like that. Like a board wipe, it's like, we don't have anything to fucking talk about. Like, I'm sorry, I'm board wiping. You know what I mean? And it's asymmetric. Like, and there's always like one other guy that was like, okay, yeah, you know, but these don't actually remove anything, you know? Like,
Sure. It just makes it difficult for everybody else.
Yeah, they'll just swing on you and dump their removal. But again, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of how well this kind of deck can hold up, because it's kind of a tall order, even though it is 12 cards a lobby. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
take it from somebody that's played Finx. It takes a
It's
lot
kind
of
a
work.
lot. Yeah, it's kind of a tall order for sure.
Yeah, and I messed around with it a little bit when I was seeing this card, and I found that, like, kind of leaning more into that Thrumming Stones type strategy, that extra like way to get out some extra petitioners. I found that to be a big lean, like a big help to the deck. I was wondering if you were running Vanquishers Banner in the deck, if that was one of the cards that like you saw
for the card draw.
Yeah, for the card draw. So it's like you're reducing the cost.
Yeah. Yeah. Then there's what is it? The Herald's Horn too is another one that kind of helps out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Vanquisher's Banner is a great idea for it. I'm running it. In fact, that kind of segues me into the card draw. So there's a couple of that. So there's Vanquisher's Banner, which if you have to name.
You're gonna have to name advisors.
It's one of those things.
Advisor,
yeah. So it's 5 mana. It says as Vanquisher's Banner enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. You would be choosing Advisor in this case. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. But the big thing here is whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, draw a card. So yeah, this leans really hard on what we're trying to do. And then the other two that I included that are kind of along the lines of this a little bit is Distant Melody. So it's 3 and a blue, choose a creature type, draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. And then weirdly enough, one called Mass Appeal, which just says draw a card for each human you control. So it's 2 and a blue.
Oh, yeah.
So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a little hidden gem, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're humans. So your commander is a human. Pretty much there's only 2 non-humans in the entire, well, now that Loyal Drake's in here. 3. Yeah, that completely unique idea I had about putting a Loyal Drake in here. Yeah, they're all human. Speaking of human, I did actually put the Angel of Glory's Rise in here as well.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, so she's 5, a white and a white. It says when Angel of Glory's Rise enters the battlefield, exiles all zombies. So it could happen. But then it says return all human creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So she'll pop them back in and they can begin, lobbying for more reform that only helps them.
Yeah, the late game that could just, if you got enough persistent petitioners in the yard, you're milling someone out. You got 10 of them.
And then I guess like if you encounter somebody who, I don't know, like, yeah, there's a way you can spin that. Like, yeah, I'm fucked. They're all dead. Then, psych. Yeah, so they're back in. Because if you get 8, they go up to 24. So you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, Augustin is obviously included in that formula. Outside of this, there's not much going on with this list. I mean, this is just like the price you pay for having 20 of your card slots given to one thing. I'll have other things in here that mill outside of them. Like I did put Fraying Sanity in because my thought was, so sorry to say what this one does. It's 2 and a blue. Enchant player, it's actually a curse. At the beginning of each end step, enchanted player puts the top X cards of his or her library to his or her graveyard, where X is the number of cards that were put into the graveyard from anywhere this turn. So every spell they cast adds to the mill count. Everything that's already in the graveyard adds to them, like pretty much whatever they milled that turn. It just keeps getting worse and worse. So pretty much you drop this on somebody, hit them with a lobby, and end the turn, and they'll lose that many more, right? And
they'd be absolutely screwed with a board wipe type.
Well, my thought with this is it's a little focused, right? Like it's not as global, but we're already doing that with these guys anyway. We're not really having that global mill effect going on where everybody's losing you do have to kind of point it at somebody. My thought was is that hit somebody with it, and then you can you have the space to focus on somebody else while this card's doing its work. That makes sense?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so it's kind of just like you can walk away and go, okay, I can pivot and kind of mill someone else, because it's going to feel like you're having to play catch up in the later game and hope that you have enough petitioners to be able to pivot and then mill the next person. Because we noticed like the Hedron crab thing that we experienced in that gameplay video, like he was having to bounce between the two of us,
Yeah.
Well, he could have hyper-focused one of us out quicker. I mean, it worked out.
Yeah, it worked
out perfectly where he was able to pill us both, but I don't know. There's also the Fleet Swallower. I didn't put him in the deck, but he's also a thought. He kind of falls into that a little bit. He's 5, a blue and a blue. It says whenever the Fleet Swallower attacks, target player puts the top half of his or her graveyard rounded up into his or her library into his graveyard. So what's cool about him is that he can attack one person that's undefended, but throw his ability at the person that you intend to mill.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be attacking and hitting the person that you're going after. Kind of like the same thought, right? Like you've worked on this guy enough with your petitioner trigger.
Yeah, this is going to go hit somebody big.
And then, you can start throwing the Fleet Swaller at them to finish him off, or vice versa.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of mill cards out there, but I just couldn't find a place to make sure they were worth it, you know? There's another combo that kind of might be of interest. It's called, so you remember this one from Guilds of Ravnica. It's called Drowned Secrets. So it's 1 and a blue. It says whenever you cast a blue spell, target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. So you mill them for 2. So if you set up a Dramatic Scepter combo, we're just done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it is a blue spell. So you just start, I mean, you would be done anyway, but this is separate from the petitioner. So if you're completely boarded out, you have no petitioners left, you're...
Just need something else that you can do.
Yeah, you need something else to kind of rely on. Start thinking about like Paradox Engine and Capsize with this out, or just a Dramatic Scepter thing, you know? So there is ways to just kind of finish the game through a mill where they think, okay, well, his one channel of doing it, your one channel of doing it's been removed. There is other ways to do that. So I didn't include these in the list, but it's something to think about. Is another, because honestly, like I've never done a mill deck before, ever.
It's weird, and as we talked about when we discussed that as a theme, right? Like you have to be careful because the math has to add up, right? Like, and obviously that's the nice thing about the petitioners is it's a repeatable activated ability that allows you to have the math add up, and then you can supplement that with a few other things that, you know, like I like the Fleet Swallower as an add because it's big.
Yeah. I have the Paradox Engine in here because I thought, I don't know, like it's a damn good card, but I don't know, the Dramatic Scepter thing, like it's only I don't know. I feel like I've had it in a lot of my decks lately, if I'm being honest. Like if you go back and listen to my like catalog of decks, because I thought maybe I should just leave it out, but it does make sense to put it in this, you know, because those 2 cards, enough petitioners to do the lobby, you're done. You know, those 2 cards, no petitioners do the lobby, and that other blue card that was kind of helping you along all the way because every time you casted petitioner, they milled 2.
Sure.
Makes sense. So I don't know. Think
about
plugging it in.
The Drowned Secret seems innocuous until you play out your combo like that. Yeah,
think about plugging it in, but don't ever tell me don't tell me I've been putting it in every deck because I didn't this time. God damn it. And then Intruder Alarm's in here too. So anytime this gets pretty nutty.
That just makes sense.
I don't really have a way to combo with it. You could, I think.
But you're going to get value from it, right?
But anytime anyone's resolving a new, so let's just kind of walk through this. You've got your commander, 3 other advisors or whatever, right? And then, a petitioner and enough to do a lobby. You tap them, mill 4, cast a new one, mill 12, cast a new one, mill another 12. Like even on your own, this is just going to get multiplicative. You know, they're going to get spun out pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about that, just casting 2 spells allows you in total to mill 36 cards.
Yeah.
That's a huge amount of cards.
Yeah, and then if you're sitting across from, you know, this Lavinia deck, who's flickering cards in and out of play, it's going to be like, do I really want to do that if he's going to deck me? I'm like, no, dude, I'll point it at this guy over here. Help me out with this. I don't give a shit. Let's just mill this guy over here.
But at this rate, it's only going to take like 2 turns.
I feel strongly you're going to have to buy in with this too. I really think you're just going to have to like, lean on one person and just wipe them out. You know, dump all of those on one person.
And that kind of leans into more of my thoughts on how petitioners should function. Like I think cards like Vanquishers Banner really lend well to that, you know, Paradox Engine, tap, untap, you know, you draw a new petitioner, you cast a new petitioner. At that point, it's costing a single mana to cast the petitioner. Well, you got like 8 or 9 by the time you're in the late game.
Yeah, once you get to 8, it's 24 cards. It's 24 cards. Yeah, so I can see this deck being fun for a while. I don't know about in the long term. I think after a while you kind of get tired of it because like I guess you could reduce the petitioner account, so you're kind of reducing the consistency so it feels more variable to you.
Sure.
I landed at 20. I don't really know the right number, honestly, because we've had Rat Colony decks and it felt like 20 was the right number around that zone, and I'm just kind of operating off of that.
Yeah, but I mean, Rat Colony, like this. So here's the problem to me with the petitioners, right?
You need 4.
Is the gap between 4 and 8, right? Like, because I think you can get yourself to 4 pretty easily.
Yeah, you need 3 with your commander.
Well, yeah, sure.
Or any
but
of
like,
these other guys.
like Austin kind of pointed out, like getting that repetitious card
The
draw
rotation
going. Like because you need that, because if you're stuck in that gap, you're kind of in this weird no man's land, right? Like you're getting some value, but not as much value as you probably need to win.
Yeah, that might be a better direction to go, is just like remove these other cute like recursion effects, like the remembrance is kind of whatever, you know, like remove that. Honestly, I don't see remembrance getting you a lot of mileage outside of a board wipe.
Yeah, I mean, it's an insurance policy.
Because I don't think anyone's going to waste removal to kill 1. Why would anyone do that when they know that you've got 18 others or 19 others in the deck? You know, like it's going to be a board wipe. So my whole thought with remembrance was, well, if it does get board wiped, then I know I get exactly the amount I need to replace that effect again.
Yeah,
is all I thought.
Yeah,
but that's it. Other than that, it's just going to be a piece of white cardboard, like sort of a board wipe. There's no other reason to have that card in the deck. So if you don't really run in a board wipe heavy meta, that card could probably go.
Sure.
You know, because
okay.
I seriously don't think anyone's going to spot, you know? Okay. So it's talking about outside of this guy. Cause like, honestly, like, I gotta say, the reason I'm doing this is just kind of fit it into our last guild video and whatever. I actually don't think that the Grand Arbiter Augustin IV is the best commander for them. There's a lot of things that make sense as to why you would. He cuts the costs in half. He himself is an advisor. But he's just a shitty fucking commander, dude. Like, a lot of people don't like playing against this guy. Like, they just don't. So now you're doing 2 things. Their costs are going up. You're decking them for 12. Like, I don't know. It depends on how much you like playing with people. So there are some alternatives.
I like playing with people.
I like playing with people too, dude. I don't know, man. Playing with my stuffed animals just looks weird when people walk in. So I think Sidisi Brood Tyrant is probably like the top of my list of who I think would be the best commander for these cards, because its strategy is different here. So to read her off again, she's a pretty well-known one as well. She's 1 a black, a green, and a blue. She says, it says, whenever Sidisi Brood Tyrant enters the battlefield or attacks, you put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Whenever 1 or more creature cards is put into your graveyard from your library, you put a 2/2 black zombie creature token into the battlefield. She's a 3/3. So we let go of white, but we pick up green and we pick up black.
And now you're milling yourself.
Right. So specifically what we get from green is we have doubling Chant. So it says you can pay 5 and a green, search for each creature you control. You may search your library for a creature card with the same name as that creature, put those cards into the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So as soon as you have enough of these guys going, you will instantly jump up to 4, or from 4 to 8, or wherever you're at. Yeah. And then the other thing that really, really sets it off is the black, right? So there's 2 cards specifically that I think are really crazy with, you know, these swarm effects, because that's where they've been putting their money anyway already.
Sure.
Right? So it's Secret Salvage. It's 3 a black and a black. It says exile target non-land card from your graveyard. Search your library for any number of cards with the same name as that card. Reveal them and put them into your hand and shuffle your library. So if we kind of think about Austin's idea for this, where you're just chaining them out, this just completely circles around that. You've gotten all of them into your hand now at the cost of 1. So you nuke 1 or exile 1 and then grab the rest and just shove them into your hand. There'll probably be 1 in your graveyard with Sidisi because we're going to be self-milling here.
Sure.
So the whole idea is that instead of milling them, it makes better sense to mill yourself. And in almost every case, like if we go back to our mill episode, it's better to mill yourself than your opponents.
Yeah,
because
it's a little more straightforward.
Well, that, and you know, you by choosing a mill strategy, you've granted your opponents an extra life total. You know,
because you're not interacting.
Yeah,
with their
you're not
life
driving the game to a close in the way that your opponents are for each other. Most of them are probably 9 times out of 10 engaging in life total destruction. That's what they're looking to do, or combo off, I guess. But you're not part of that. You're milling people. You know, so the game is not ending in the space it normally would. And the other thing is that if they have anything in their deck that resets their library, Ulamog, Kozilek,
yeah,
it becomes almost impossible unless you've got a way to exile them on the, you know, when it gets exposed. So when you focus on yourself, well, you can plan for the variables. You know what's in your deck, right? And with Sidisi, she's rewarding you with zombies every time a creature hits your yard. So when you throw the intruder alarm into this, you've just gone off.
That's actually pretty dope.
Because she sees she tosses you a zombie, intruder alarm sees it, you continue to mill. So when you put your own Kozilek in play, you basically, before your turn starts, you say, okay, I've gone infinite with infinite zombies. Like, what's the answer? Right? And you can walk everybody through it. Like, I cannot be decked because of the cards or you could put Gaia, what is it? Gaia's Blessing. Yeah, I noticed it. Yeah, that's another one. But you get what I mean. Like, it kind of focuses it a little by kind of including some, I don't know, like she's a proven commander. Yeah, it's going to kind of dilute what she's been used to doing a little bit, but you have access to some serious cards that you wouldn't in Azorius, like Blood Bond March. This one's nutty too. So it's 2, a black and a green. Whenever a creature spell is played, each player returns all cards with the same name of that spell from his or her graveyard to play.
Oh.
So if they board you, or you've been self-milling like crazy, and then you cast a petitioner from hand, it dumps all of them into play.
That's fascinating.
So I think the deck gets a little bit more explosive when you're focusing on yourself, and people can, I mean, anyone who knows what's up, they'll decide to try to deal with you, right? I mean, now you're more exposed to graveyard hate or whatever, but I don't know. It's different than like what Austin was saying earlier. Like, people don't like getting milled. You know what I mean? No. Yeah. And then there's like undergrowth stuff. Like, I don't know. I just think that she's a compelling commander for these. Yeah,
like Grand Arbiter Augustin has some sense that it makes, but Sidisi
does too.
I'm convinced, dude.
Yeah, I definitely found myself leaning more into the Sultai colors when it came to like looking at Petitioner. Like there were definitely a few cards like Recycle that whenever you cast the spell, draw a card, and then there was another one that like in black, blanking on the name of it.
Null Profusion.
Yeah, Null Profusion does the same thing.
Yeah, like lean on it, man. Just do shit like that. Like, exactly. Yeah, you have a reduced hand size with those, right? Isn't it like Recycle makes you discard your hand at the end of your turn or something like that?
Yeah. Like, but if you're casting out all your petitioners, I mean, you don't really
the only card you're going to want to cast is the Blood Bond March.
Yeah.
You know? Like, make sure that gets into play and then fuck the rest. Like, I like the idea of Sidisi as the commander more than Augustin. I really do.
Yeah. How does this make you feel about Azorius, though? Because, like, you brought up Sultai, you know? Like, you made it a big talking point near the end. It's like, you know, did you...
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, what just happened? Like...
What, are you guys upset?
The Guild series got killed, like, just really unceremoniously, like... Yeah, Azorius. So fuck that. Let's talk about Sultai.
So surprise, we're moving into wedges, my dude, and we'll start with Sultai.
That's pretty funny.
The beginning of a new arc, man. I plant just as I had planned it all along. Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, like, I don't know. Like, I said it a couple of times over the course of this podcast. Like, I struggled with coming up with something that, and it might just be me. Like, I have like just shoving people out of the game one way or the other, you know? Yeah, I kind of push that further out than most people would think. Like, if you look at my decks, like, you know, me and Kyle have been talking about that. Like, a lot of the reason why we get salty playing the game is that we've made winning a kind of a further, it's a couple more miles away than it should be, because we've denied our ability to just kind of combo off and go infinite early, or if at all, or if we do infinite combos, it's usually like some
super convoluted.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Rube Goldberg machine to do it, you know? So when it does happen, it's like when somebody gets between us and our end goal, we get upset with that person because they just don't know how far off we were from it. You know, like, I'm not even a threat to you. I need these 3 other things, but you know, they've seen it before and they're just going to deal with it now because we did it once. And now they have like this, you know what I mean, emblem in their memory of, oh, well, I got to get rid of, you know, like your twins.
Yeah, it's me with the Kenriths. I just exploded with
one time
multiple copies of Comet Storm.
Yeah, and that was was enough for everybody.
And everybody's like, well, just don't let the planeswalkers live.
Yeah, ever. Yeah. It's like, we will not suffer them to live ever. So to kind of bring it back to what I struggle with Azorius is I don't have a way to really do that with just white and blue. You know, like a way to reach into the life total different. And just shove them out of the game. I'm like, okay, and then I pivot and kind of focus on somebody else. Like
it's a bit slower. You know, there's more. It's more tempo. It's more
way
control.
Slower. Yeah,
you know, but that's I think that's what it is. It wants everyone to be slow because if you're playing slow, well then all your opponents have to as well. You know.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. Like if we just say, okay, this is what you get by putting on the Azorius vest. Like slower play. But it's a good idea to bring everyone down to your speed. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna put everybody in the same speed as you. Then I'm probably
in first gear.
Yeah, maybe I have. Yeah, we're staying in first gear. I'm in the Cadillac. You know, everybody's just I'm going to the grocery store, and everybody's gonna have to just wait for me to get there.
Yeah,
you know, like if that's what you're choosing to do, then yeah, I think it's more palpable. Like if you say this is how it's going to be, if you set that expectation up. But for the petitioners specifically, I just can't get behind Grand Arbiter as a commander for them because of what he does to the table,
to everyone else.
Yeah, and that you're not actually able to lean in on what he wants you to do enough. Like all he does, it makes sense. He does give you two kind of lines of play. Hey, they're cheaper. Hey, I'm an advisor as well. But is that enough to really make me your commander? I don't know. It's up to you. But when you bring Sidisi in, she's like, dude, I want you to mill this library, and I'm going to give you zombies to do it. And now it's like, oh, well, we get green. We get that doubling chant. The cards that you mentioned, I didn't even think about recycle or null profusion. You know, I'm like, dude, let's just do that shit. Like, she just helps you just jam that along a lot better, in my opinion. I saw people talking about Riku, too, as a possibility.
Yeah.
Red does have ways to clone multiples, right? It's got a couple ways, like the Flame Shadow Conjuring, Riku himself. I think there's some couple instances.
Yeah, there's that like Strive one, right?
Yeah, there's like a Strive one. There's that new enchantment that when they ETB, you start flipping coins and making copies. What's it called?
Yes.
It's like Mirror Match or
Mirror Match. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, there's that. Like Red does have maybe some things to talk about. I don't know though. I've always kind of thought Riku needs a lot of options to stay in play.
To stay relevant.
Yeah, like like does that make sense? Like I think you do need like to be able to twin Rex Sage or twin, you know what I mean? Like you're going to be finding a lot of ways to try to keep yourself in the game with a Riku because of his mana cost. I don't know about that. Yeah, and all you're really getting from him is an extra petitioner, which then I'd point you back to Grand Arbiter because he is your constantly ever always present petitioner in that he's an advisor. So I don't know about him. I can't think of anybody else, like any other ones that people have pointed at. Damia is another one. I think some people have
mentioned. Just keep filling your hand.
Yeah, she's just too much mana, like for what she's giving you. There's so many cheap card draw effects in this game now. Like, I don't know. I don't know if regripping yourself at the end of your turn is compelling enough to make her the commander.
Huh.
But yeah, there's options out there. I don't know. Maybe there's some out there that I haven't really explored. I'm pretty sure somebody's looked into 5-color advisors by now. But yeah, Sidisi. That's my petitioner commander for sure.
Okay.
All right, man. End of the guild series. I think we're there.
Yeah, I think we did it.
Yeah.
Thanks
thanks
for bringing us home, Austin.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Thanks for buttoning it up for us. You know,
happy to be here. Happy to talk about Azorius.
Hey, how come we weren't giving you any shit, Kyle, for not doing a deck? I got so much shit for the last time we brought him in on for doing Selesnya.
It's just, you know, it's because you saw the salty side of me now that I've been playing Izet and you don't want to fuck with me.
Oh yeah, because I'm scared of you. Yeah. Don't hurt me, daddy. Yeah, I mean, thanks for coming by. What's the plan? Are you what's the plan for you? What do you got coming up? What should people look out for your channel?
Well, we're still doing the weekly gameplay with Singleton Showdown. So that's every Wednesday.
Yeah, those are cool.
Around 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We play on Commander on Magic Online.
Mm-hmm.
It's an easy way to kind of get a game out and play with some other people from the community. So
you got some cool personalities on your channel here and there.
Yeah. We've kind of built up the rapport with a few other creators, and so it's good. It's good to be able to just kind of hang out and
I was watching a game recently. You guys had is it PJ that was playing Halar? Is that who?
Yes, that's PJ.
Oh man, I'm retiring my Halar deck because that one also.
What was he doing?
Oh, he just like went off like out of
2 turns.
I mean it was like not necessarily out of nowhere because it's Halar, but it was kind of out of nowhere. But it's fun. It's fun to watch you guys just kind of like slam out a game. It's pretty nice. Yeah,
we definitely do that. We're I'm definitely looking at playing Lavinia. That's bringing that to the table as well because like I said, it was on the EDH Lounge and we'll see it. I'd like to play it again. I'm very interested in this strategy recently, and so that'll be good to bring to one of our gameplay nights.
Yeah, you've been a pretty big defender of it tonight for sure. Calling me out on that Sidisi shit.
Sidisi, I mean, it's this is a guild series, right?
Yeah, gotta keep it pure, Andy.
Man, all right.
We're actually looking ourselves. I'm kind of in the editing process of it. I was working mostly on the thumbnail. Like that was actually a huge thing to tackle with this. I want to start doing some like, not to your guys' level, because I don't know how you do it every week, bringing out a podcast, but like once a month, something like that. We're looking to maybe do a video podcast where, we just kind of bring our insights onto things.
I don't know, man. I enjoy your perspective. Like if you had a podcast, I would definitely subscribe to how you kind of think about things. You're very circumspect with what you do. I'd be all over that.
Yeah, I definitely. I feel like I know what I like. I know what I like about Commander. I know what it is that kind of does it for me. And I think the political aspect of the game is very huge, and so you'll probably see a few episodes on that topic.
Dude, get on it, man. I want to hear it.
Coming out from us in the future.
Yeah, get on it.
Cool.
All right, well, yeah, man, thanks for having some...
You just said thanks for having us, and it's like,
yeah,
but we're having him.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely have to get you guys on. I know that'll definitely be something we'll have to do.
Yeah, anytime. Let us know. Hey, thanks for enduring the endless paperwork and petitioners that come with the Azorius Senate. And also big thanks to Austin from Commander 99 for joining us and sharing his Lavinia deck. We'll post links to his stuff in the show notes. Also, we'll post links to Andy's stuff in the show notes as well. If you haven't checked out our gameplay videos yet, be sure to visit our YouTube channel. Links in the show notes for that too. And music this episode by the artist Home. Tracks from the album Resting State. Be sure to find them in the show notes and support musicians and their craft as well. Until next time, don't get bogged down with your paperwork.